When you see Melody Sherry today, walking in peace, posting her wins, glowing like she just stepped out of a self-care retreat, it's easy to forget the storm she survived. You see a woman who carries herself with confidence, radiates a calm strength, and celebrates her successes, and it's almost impossible to imagine the chaos that once surrounded her life. Not too long ago, her name was tangled in headlines, court filings, custody battles, and whispers of betrayal that seemed endless. The world only glimpsed fragments of what she endured, and people often forget just how deep the storm ran. This wasn't merely a breakup, and it wasn't a messy divorce. It was the unraveling of everything Melody had built. Her family, her trust, her public image, her very sense of stability, all of it came crashing down at once. Her life, once shared publicly as a picture of family unity and glamour, became a battleground where personal betrayal was laid bare for everyone to see. In a world where private pain is often public entertainment, Melody had to navigate not only the emotional devastation of a failed marriage, but also the unrelenting gaze of a society eager to assign blame, speculate motives, and dissect her every move. And through it all, she remained composed, carefully creating her presence online, protecting her children, and slowly reclaiming her narrative in ways that few noticed at first. And right in the middle of that storm was Martell Holt. Once her partner, her co-star, her co-parent, and the other half of the power couple everyone admired, Martell presented a glossy exterior of charm, stability, and public success. But beneath that carefully maintained image was a truth that only a few dared to say aloud. Martell wasn't just struggling in a marriage, he was systematically dismantling it from the inside out. Years of infidelity, a secret relationship, a child born outside of the marriage, and a consistent refusal to own up to his choices created a narrative of betrayal that left Melody and everyone around them reeling. When the truth eventually surfaced, Martell didn't acknowledge the consequences of his actions. Instead, he attempted to rewrite the story as if he had been the unsuspecting victim of a tragic circumstance. Fast forward to today, and Martell continues to frame the narrative as if the real damage came from the divorce itself, rather than from the choices that led to it. He sits on camera with a solemn expression, recounting the heartbreak of his mother, the tears she shed, and the pain he supposedly endured. Beside him, Miss Marlene, once a trusted figure in Melody's life, nods along quietly, reinforcing the story he is trying to tell. Yet, the audience sees the truth more clearly than the scripted television moment allows. This wasn't a sudden earthquake that tore through their home. This was the result of deliberate choices, repeated lies, and a betrayal that unfolded over years. And Marlene's role in all of this is complex and deeply personal. She wasn't an innocent bystander. She knew about Arian Curry, the other woman. She witnessed her son betray his vows, his family, and his wife. But instead of intervening, instead of holding him accountable and protecting Melody like she would have her own daughter, she chose silence. That silence was more than a lack of action. It was a form of complicity. The bond that Melody once had with Marlene, a bond she considered a second mother and a source of love and support, was severed by that quiet loyalty to her own son over integrity, over truth, over decency. And when you look at the motivations behind that silence, you begin to understand it wasn't purely about Martell's heartbreak. It was also about lifestyle, comfort, and familiarity. Back when Melody was still Mrs. Holt, life had its perks for everyone involved. The home was larger, more luxurious, and fully equipped with every convenience imaginable. The kitchen had every modern appliance, the driveway often hosted expensive vehicles, and the atmosphere carried a certain status that came with the family name. When Melody chose to walk away, she didn't just leave a man behind. She left an entire lifestyle, and with it, Marlene's comforts and daily indulgences faded. Reality returned with smaller apartments, fewer frills, and a stark reminder that choices have consequences. Perhaps that subtle loss contributed to the sting, amplifying the emotional complexity of a situation that was already raw with betrayal and heartbreak. Instead of holding her son accountable, Marlene sat beside him, helping him frame the story as one of a man wronged, a man struggling to reclaim what he lost. But the truth is clear. Melody gave him chance after chance. She provided warnings, opportunities for correction, and grace. Each time he chose deceit over commitment, the streets over family. And that is why questions persist. Why is Martell still tangled in court battles with Melody? Why can't they co-parent peacefully? The answers are not complicated. Some people don't want peace, they want control. Martell clings not to love, but to ego, to the inability to admit that the life he lost is one he can never reclaim. Every post he shares, every cryptic message he posts online, every subtle jab in interviews reinforces a pattern. Chaos created by his own choices, followed by a famed surprise when consequences inevitably arrive. The courts aren't dragging him back for sport. Melody isn't filing papers for fun. There is a method to the madness, and it all stems from his inability to take accountability and step away gracefully from a situation he himself complicated beyond repair. And then there's Arian, the woman at the center of the scandal, who still publicly refers to Martell as her partner. At first glance, it may seem like a story of a new love filling a void. But if you study the photos, the interviews, the fleeting moments of genuine emotion, you notice a stark contrast. Martell does not smile with her in the way he once smiled with Melody. There is no pride, no warmth, no spark, just a haunted gaze that betrays regret. Arian was never the plan. She was the distraction. Once the thrill faded, all that remained was the reality of what Martell gave up: a wife, a family, and a life he could have had if he had made different choices. Yet Martell continues to present an image of co-parenting in good faith. But the ongoing court appearances, restraining orders, and endless drama paint a very different picture. This is not about family unity or peace. This is about control. It's about clinging to a narrative that absolves him of responsibility while keeping Melody in a state of scrutiny she never asked for. And while Melody works tirelessly to shield her children from this chaos, she also faces the immense pressure of raising them under a public microscope. Every post, every headline, every whisper online is a challenge she must filter, a storm she must navigate to protect her family and maintain her own sanity. What makes this story even more remarkable is the resilience Melody demonstrates. The world may ask why she doesn't speak out more, why she doesn't publicly defend herself at every turn. But the better question is, why should she? She has already lived the pain, already navigated the chaos, already faced betrayal in its rawest form. Now, she focuses on moving forward. She focuses on peace, on her children, and on reclaiming the life she built from the ground up. Every post is intentional, every moment carefully curated to live authentically without being dragged back into the drama that Martell continues to manufacture. And make no mistake, Martell keeps her name in the spotlight for a reason. His relevance, his storyline, his ability to remain at the center of media attention all rely on her presence. Without Melody, he is no longer the betrayed husband or the misunderstood father. He is simply a man who gambled everything and lost. No amount of deflection, no careful revision of history, no social media strategy can erase that truth. And perhaps the most chilling aspect is that you may not be done trying. Every attempt to control the narrative, every subtle maneuver behind the scenes, blurs the line between father and antagonist, between co-parent and adversary. Producers, too, play their part in shaping the story. Strategic mentions, subtle shifts in tone, and careful positioning of Arian Curry in the narrative all signal a calculated effort to stir drama while keeping audiences engaged. Martell recognizes this, and he adapts his narrative accordingly, portraying Arian as misunderstood, reframing his own actions as consequences of confusion rather than betrayal. But the audience sees through it. They witness the exhaustion in Melody's voice, the weariness in her eyes, and the strength it takes to carry 4 children through courtrooms, headlines, and public speculation. She does not need to shout. Her silence is powerful, and that silence rattles Martell more than any public rebuttal ever could. Martell gambled everything and lost. No deflection, no revisionist history, no attempt at controlling the narrative can change that fact. Melody Sherry survived, and more than that, she thrived. She emerged from a storm that could have broken her, carrying not only herself but her children and her dignity with grace and strength. The storm may never fully disappear, but she has shown the world what it means to rise above betrayal, to reclaim one's life, and to live unapologetically in peace. Some stories aren't about revenge or vindication. They are about resilience, courage, and the quiet power of moving forward when the world expects you to fall.